Okay. Um, are we live? Uh, okay. Looks like we are. I'm having a little network issue, but I think we're good for now. Are we good? Um, yeah, I think we are. Okay. So welcome to today's Hangout. I'm actually really happy for this one because with it, we've been doing a lot of work over the things are explained. Um, oh, audio. Yikes. Sorry, let me check on that. How long have I even been going? Okay. What is going on here? Funny actually. Where do you even find sound? Okay. Okay, looks like. Can you guys hear me? If you can, please leave anything, a comment, something. Okay, let me see. Okay, it's working now. Thank you. Okay, okay, okay. Yikes. Where do I even start from? Well, I've been off the whole time. Oh my goodness. Yikes. Okay. Well. Um, okay. So basically, what you guys missed, what I was saying was, I was just talking about the new documentation and everything that's changed in it. Basically, this is just a new UI, refreshed UI. It has things that are fixed in, you know, they were broken before but are fixed now. An example is this, which is our sandbox. By the way, you can access this at sandbox.leafphp.dev. So it just gives you a way to try Leaf in your browser without actually installing anything. Um, so I can update this to hello world like this. And then if I run it, I get hello world. So basically, anything you see in the documentation, you can just try it at sandbox.leafphp.dev and it'll work. At least that's the idea. Um, so fresh UI, thank you to our sponsors. Um, New testimonials, undo Rego's only this month. Um, and then a refresh community page for everything community related. Everyone who has contributed to Leaf and stuff like that. Um, and then it wasn't just the UI, but then the documentation itself was also um, refreshed. So you have things that explained better. So I mentioned with the old documentation, which is now hosted at v3.leafphp.dev. Um, with this, a lot of things were just kind of listed as functions. Um, so a good example would be, I don't know, maybe utilities, maybe. Um, so over here, things were pretty much just listed at face value. So you have to take everything just as it was given in documentation without actually really understanding it. But then the new documentation actually breaks down lots of concepts. Um, so then we take everything, not exactly as if you're a beginner, but then it gives you all of the concepts you need. And then if there are any videos or any links, those are all added to the documentation like that. Um, so this new documentation does a better job of just breaking down everything. So an example, let's take maybe request responses. It gives you what a request is, an example of a request, and this is framework language agnostic. Like no matter what language or framework you're using, a request will look like this. Yeah, so it just does a much better job of breaking all of this down, and that's the idea. So this new documentation just covers up all of the failures of the old documentation, and that's the idea. Um, so besides the new documentation, we also had a bunch of new releases with Leaf Form, Leaf FS, Alchemy, Auth, and then stuff like that. So these got Leaf Form, Leaf FS, Leaf Alchemy. They all got major releases, which means a complete rewrite, basically. So um, they're rewritten from scratch. An example is leaf auth, right? So leaf auth was mainly rewritten because there were some things that I found weird. A lot of things actually that I found very weird. Um, so an example was the auth configuration, right? Um, leaf auth before used uppercase snake case. Yeah, it was like an uppercase snake case, which was, uh, I mean, it was readable. It was readable enough, but then nowhere else in Leaf, we're not using that kind of configuration anywhere else in Leaf. So it was sort of like you write your regular camel case configuration everywhere else, and then you move to Leaf auth, and like that's the only place you're using a different kind of configuration. So an example of this is Leaf auth. I don't actually remember if I had all the configuration listed. Uh, I think Leaf MVC would probably be like a much better place to show this. Leaf MVC, right? So if you head over to config, auth config, there it is. Right. So all of this had, I don't know if what you call this from like upper snake case. Yeah, upper snake case. Um, right. And then everywhere else, we were using camel case, like up or down. I'm looking for something that basically this was the format of the config everywhere else. In cores, you know, CSRF, everywhere else had this sort of configuration, but then Leaf Auth was using this upper snake case, which was weird, actually very weird. So that was like one of the reasons I decided to rewrite it, not just for the configuration, but then to create some sort of what's the word, uniformity. Yeah, so that you could sort of carry over your knowledge from one module to another. You didn't have to tweak anything. Um, yeah, basically. So it was to create some sort of consistency. I think that's the word I was looking for earlier. Um, yeah, and then that consistency now carries out throughout the whole rewrite. So with um, before with the let me just open this up. With the old Leaf Auth version, that was version 2. Besides all of this weird configuration you do over here, login and sign up behaved differently based on whether you are using session auth or token authentication. So with session authentication, you could define redirect endpoints. Let me look for redirect. So I think there was like a session redirect or something like that. Session on register, yeah, and then you could define guard home. And then that was weird because if you did this, as soon as you are done registering, it would automatically redirect. Um, so if someone came here and took your code without actually knowing that, they would be really confused. And I found that weird. I really found that weird. It was fine. I mean, it's simple. It's if you know about it, it's readable enough. But then I just sort of found that weird. So I tried to create some new consistency where the login function and then the register function work the same no matter what you're using, whether it's token auth or session auth. Everything will just work exactly the same. Another major thing was middleware. So now auth comes with its middleware, its own middleware. Would be better if I just showed it in action. So I'm rewriting Leaf MVC's authentication flow. So Leaf MVC has this thing where you can just say like PHP Leaf scaffold auth, but then it was broken for quite a while because I made some updates that I didn't carry over uh, across versions, basically. So I'm just rewriting that. And it's really old, actually. It's very old. I think I was using Bootstrap. That's how old it was. That's like 2020 or something like that, like 4 years ago. Can't believe Bootstrap is already going out of date. and it's just been 4 years. So anyway, I was just rewriting all of this stuff, which we'll get to later. Um, yeah, but then the idea is to just rewrite it with Tailwind. So that's what I'm doing. Um, so about authentication, yeah, that's what the old authentication looked like. So if you try to use this right now, it'll probably break. Um, right. So this is what the new stuff looks like. And I'll get to all of this in a bit, but basically this is how you register a new user. You can validate the user. Let me just make this bigger. Okay, so you can validate the user, all of the user information, which is coming from this form. And if it fails, we just redirect with a flash message. So flash messages shown once. So once they are viewed, they just disappear. Um, but if this is successful, then we just move on to the next step, which is actually registering the users. And then if that's not successful, we do the same thing here. I wish there was a way to kind of combine it, but it's fine. It's fine for now. Um, yeah, so we just redirect with a flash message. And then if it's successful, we redirect to dashboard. So right now we don't have all of that funny automatic redirection. So before, this would probably end over here. So then someone would probably enter this function and they're like, okay, so we registered the user, but then what did we do? Because, there's nothing here showing. Yeah, that was because with the previous version, would have probably set redirect in the auth config. And then, yeah, so there was that inconsistency there. So I just rewrote this to work better. So now you can actually handle the redirects over here. Anyway, so that's one of the things that I did here. I was actually talking about something earlier. Right, middleware. So if you head over to your routes auth, so by the way, I generated this using the scaffold auth. I had to change a lot of things to match the new version of Leaf, but then this is what it looks like. So um, you middleware, and then there are two middleware that it gives you. It gives you the auth required. So that is if you have a page that actually requires authentication. And then there's the auth guest, which is a page that doesn't require authentication. So over here, I'm just saying if a page requires authentication and then the user is not logged in, but it requires authentication, then we just redirect to the login page. And then this is the opposite of that. So if it's a guest page, like a page that doesn't require authentication, and then the user is logged in, then we don't want the user to see that page. So we just redirect them to dashboard. For now, it's still very basic. So, you can do other stuff here, but you can't do stuff like getting where the user, actually, that would be a good feature. Maybe I'll do that in the next version. Like maybe you could sort of like get the page that the user entered in the URL, and then, after login or something, you can redirect them. Anyway, but it doesn't have that now. For now, this is the extent of what you can do. So you handle the redirect here. And this is a bit more consistent because you are doing this where everyone can read. It's not like you're doing this in a hidden configuration file. So anyone who takes this code can just sort of see what's going on. And then group middleware. So this is my auth group. So auth login, auth register. So over here, I'm using this particular middleware, which is auth guest. So what I'm saying here is I want these pages to be guest pages. So if the user is logged in, then going to this page should redirect them to the dashboard. Basically, that's what all of this is saying. So all that I need to do is just add middleware and then the middleware name. This is the opposite, dashboard and then auth logout. So by the way, you can use the middleware on a single route or you can use it on a group as we are doing here. And you can nest groups. I actually don't know when I added this feature, but yeah, you can actually nest groups. So this is a group within a group, and it works for some reason. Anyway, so this is my dashboard group. So dashboard, the main dashboard page, and then dashboard /user/updates, all of this stuff. here I'm saying if anyone tries to access the dashboard page, I want to use this middleware, which is auth required. So the auth required here just make sure everyone who accesses that page is actually logged in. And if they are logged in, then if they are not logged in, sorry, then we just redirect. Yeah. So we can try this out. Right now I'm not logged in, so if I refresh, nothing happens. But if I try to go to the dashboard page, it redirects me back to login. So that's the idea. That's what it does. This is much simpler than what the previous version had. Yeah. And then this is what the new configuration looks like. So I think that's auth.php leaf MVC config. Yeah. So you no longer have those upper snake case config. It's now all of this. And then also removed a lot of useless configuration like auth guards. Auth guards were also inconsistent because auth guards only worked with session authentication, and I wanted to maintain some kind of just that consistency. So now, no matter what you're using, whether it's session auth or token auth, it just works exactly the same way. Yeah, and then you can update messages, you can change your token secrets, your session values, all of that stuff. Right. So I removed all of the useless stuff, basically. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the. Actually, that's not all, but for now, that's what we need. There is a new user object. So from this point on, I'll just use the documentation. There's a new user object. So before, if you just did something like auth user, like this, it will return an array. So an array that contains the user information. But right now, it returns a user object that allows you to pull out fields, like maybe the username, like this, or another detail, anything else. So maybe user password. And it includes hidden fields because if you're getting a single item like this, then the idea is sort of you're using it within your application and you're not showing it to a user. So we turn off security for this. But then if you are getting the entire user object, I think it's get. I believe it's get. I don't really remember the function. Funny enough, I wrote it just a few days ago. Anyway, yeah, so if you're doing like a user get, like this, then security is turned on. But then if you're getting just a single item, then that's all. You also can do things like, so if I have, I don't know, let me try looking for some kind of database that has, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really have any real databases active here. Do I? No, I don't. Huh. Okay. Yeah, looks like I don't. Anyway, but if you had let's say you have like a users table and then you had maybe uh notes or something. So like every user has a single note or multiple notes or something like that. You could just say auth user is it like notes or something like that? And then this would query the database and then just pull every note that belongs to the logged in user. Yeah, so there's something like that. It's just a nicer syntax. Yeah, so this is it. User relationships. So it's just a nicer way to do things. Oh, hi Rome. Right. So as I was saying, there's just like a simpler way of doing things. Before you'd need to get the current user ID using like auth ID, and then you'd need to use DB to now query that. But now that's just one function. I mean, that's just one line. So that's a much simpler way of doing things now. So you can add extra queries like this using leafdb. Basically, anything like this. And then there's updating logged in users, which is pretty much the same, except that it returns success instead of like the whole user object. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for Leaf. auth version 3. I tried to make things exactly the same as they were. So the only things that changed were it returns success and then a new user object, and then the middleware. That was pretty much all. Everything else is the same as the old version. So, um, right. I don't know if you were here for this, Roman, but I was talking about updating the auth scaffold for Leaf MVC, and the new one is using Tailwind. So I'm pretty sure you'd be happy about this. So I'm currently working on that, hoping to finish this up soon. And it's using Leaf Auth version 3, so that's a lot easier to use. Right. So there's also auth logout, and now we can take in a custom function in case you want to run something by yourself. Protecting a route, I've talked about this. You have the auth middleware. Right, so that's pretty much it. The main thing was to try to get it as close to the old version as I could. So it's pretty much in line, same, almost the same thing, just a few tweaks here and there, and a new configuration, the new user ID, so the new user object, and functions returning success instead of all the user data. So that's auth version 3, simpler, more performant, I guess. Yeah. So that's auth. One of my favorite things to work on was alchemy. So anyone who knows me personally knows that I hate testing my code. Um, yeah, especially unit tests. Unit tests are so annoying, but then they've proven to be quite useful. As much as it pains me to say, they are actually quite useful. They're just really annoying to set up. So I updated Alchemy to handle all the code setup for me. So if you head over to the testing page, you can find the new Alchemy documentation over there. So the cool thing is Alchemy now handles both testing and then styling. So it uses PHP CS Fixer to do all of that stuff for you. The way it works is it generates this for you. Actually, maybe I should show this here too. I don't know if let me just close this up. I don't know if Leaf MVC already comes with it. No, it doesn't. Okay, cool. So then let's just set this up. Let's see if it will work. I don't think it will work because I'm still running the old FS version here. But anyway, let's check that. So we have leaf install alchemy, and then we install it as a dev dependency, not an actual dependency. Right, I saw this coming. Yeah, it's because of the wait, leaf auth. Okay, no, it's failing for a different reason. I'm using some of the old dependencies. That's why. Let me just try this. Composer core leaf slash alchemy. -w dev. Yeah, I really don't know if that'll work, but let's try this. Right. Okay. So this has to do with leaf auth. I don't know why leaf auth is making it fail. That's very weird. I didn't expect leaf auth to make it fail. I expected leaf fs to make it fail. Um, right. Interesting. Anyway, I'll check it out. Yeah, so these are some of the updates I'm actually making to Leaf MVC. Yeah, because Leaf MVC actually has some older dependencies. So I'm just trying to update stuff, make them work together, things like that. Right, the user's roles, it's actually not done on the way. It's difficult to navigate the new functions of the module without examples. Right, yeah. So I'm actually adding some of those. I will be doing a lot more of that in the code lab section. So I sort of redid the code labs. And I'm going to add a lot more actual real world examples. not just silly examples. So there would be more real world. Um, yeah. So you can just hold on to that. I would add actual better examples here. For now, the examples are tied to exactly what's going on. So like login has this, um, which is not a real world example. I mean, it's kind of is, but not really. So you can just hold on to that. The user's roles is actually not done, which is why they include the documentation here. Um, so I had a little dilemma. If you don't know what he's talking about, he's mentioning so leaf auth. I was trying to sort of ship what do you even call this user permissions as part of auth version 3. So this is a trait that was added. So you can do stuff like grant permissions, assign roles, all of that stuff. So you can use the functions, but then no, I don't think you can because I didn't add them here. So I'm supposed to add maybe like a use stuff, users roles. So I actually deactivated that so people don't try that. Yeah, so that's probably why you wouldn't be able to use it. Yeah, guards were removed. Guards were removed in place of um, middleware. So I showed this example. I don't know if you were here during that point. Um, routes auth, yeah, middleware. So Leaf auth now comes with this middleware. So if you require authentication and then that fails, you run this function, and then you just put that in here. Um, basically. So if you have a guest route, you can use the auth.guest middleware, and then you just set up your redirect or anything else you want to show. So for instance, if you are building an API and don't want to redirect, you can do something like auth exit and then maybe pass out some JSON or something. But in this case, it's a full stack application, so I'm using redirect. But that depends on the use case. So you can just pass in something here for in case the middleware fails. For instance, if someone here has authentication, then we run this function. If this person doesn't have authentication, then we run that. Yeah, so that's the idea. So this is right. Sorry. So this is going to replace guards because this is honestly just a much better. This is way easier, or let me say, it's more readable than guards. And then guards only used to work with session authentication, but then this works with both session authentication and token authentication. Yeah. So that's the idea for the new what's replacing guards. Um, what was I going to show? Yeah, I was talking about users roles. So it's not ready. Don't try to use it for now. The reason it's not ready is although all of the methods are set up, I had a little dilemma about how to save the permissions and the roles and all of that stuff. With something like Laravel, they can actually set everything up for you with their migrations. And I can do that with Leaf and VC, but then the point of modules is they're supposed to work with both Leaf and VC and then regular Leaf. So I was just trying to figure out a way to handle the saving and then how to save things in the database too, because I don't want to save all user permissions in the database because that might significantly affect your application performance. For instance, if it has to pull out all your permissions on every single load, um, yeah, right. That's going to come in probably the next few versions. This is version 3.0, so maybe version 3.1 or 3.2, because it's pretty much done. I just have to figure out how to save the permissions, and then it should be good to go. Um, yeah, so that's all of the user permission stuff. Um, right. Since you missed the beginning, I also mentioned that I have left out some um, notices here. So the new documentation covers only the latest version of stuff. So for instance, this is authentication version 3. So if you want the version 2, that's hosted at v3.leafphp.dev. That's the old documentation. Um, yeah, but if you upgrade to the new version, then this is the documentation for you. So wherever there's an old version, I just leave something here. So that's the same for alchemy and then the other stuff. Um, okay. Right, so I was just going to demo alchemy, which is honestly one of my favorite things because it takes away a lot of stress for me. So I'll do this in, let's see, something that doesn't have testing. Leaf HTTP, does it have testing? I don't think so. Good. So this is a good one. Um, okay, so to use alchemy, you just need to install it as a dev dependency like this. So leave install alchemy dev, and then it does the install, and then you set up this. Actually, I wanted it to set up everything for you, but then Composer has some very strict security measures, so you have to do this manually. So it's um, that's the installation for you, basically. And the installation just copies this stuff. It just creates an alchemy.yml file for you. In this case, my application has an SRC, so I just stick with the SRC. And then you can tell Alchemy what to do, like set up maybe tests using test PHP. Very soon you'll be able to use PHP in it as well, but for now it's just test. So um, parallel testing, where I want to set up my test, I want to use a test folder. And then the files should end with .test.php, code coverage, local false, actions true. So that's for GitHub Actions. And then I want to lint using PSR12, which is a PHP coding standard. So if you have any questions about how we lint, you can look for PHP CS Fixer, which is surprisingly written by Symfony. It's crazy how Symfony has every single thing you'd need to build anything. It's actually surprising. Yeah, so CS.Symfony, and basically they have all of this complicated stuff. I just don't really like reading documentation, which is not surprising. Um, so I kind of get why people don't like reading my documentation either, because I don't like reading documentation. So it's that kind of relationship. Anyway, so you just type in this any rules you want to set, and I left a link down here to the rules. Testing. Okay. So there's a link down here somewhere. I think that would probably be at code styling. Yeah, there we go. Nice. So there's a bunch of rules here, and then this website has examples of what they do and all of that stuff. So in case you want to lint your code, I don't know how many people actually lint their code, but it's just there in case you want to do it. And then if you want to set up GitHub Actions, which is something a lot of people do, so Alchemy can do all of that stuff for you. Anyway, so lots of talking. Right now, all I need to do is leave run test. It will check if I have tests. I don't have tests. It will install pest PHP for me. It will write example tests for me, and then all of that stuff is done, basically. So in this case, I didn't need to do anything. I just installed Alchemy, told it what I want. For my actions, I don't want to lint, so I'll ignore that. I only want to run tests. Good. So it's set up example test, and then it ran the test for me, basically. So if I want to set up GitHub Actions, I can just say leave run actions, and then to generate GitHub Actions for me. So with this, yeah, you have your workflows test, and it generates all of this for me. You can use different PHP versions, PHP extensions, run on different systems, all of that stuff. Yeah. So for me, this just to satisfy my personal laziness. I was surprised when I found out that people actually use Alchemy, because I thought most people wouldn't, because it's something I sort of created for me because I'm so lazy. But it has over 2,000 downloads, which is insane. Yeah. So basically, this is just for my own laziness. You are free to use it if you want to. But yeah, so that's so if I push this to GitHub, it now has actions and all of that stuff. And then what I really like about Alchemy is that it also maintains all of the cache files for me. So down here, before I would probably have like a PHP unit or XML file. I would have PHP unit, all of this, basically all of the cache files, all in my root directory. So then I would have a lot of files like what you see with Leaf MVC, like a lot of files in my root directory. And I actually don't like that. I like to have just a few things. The log file is necessary, so it has to be there. But yeah, now everything is controlled by Alchemy, so I don't have a littered root directory. That's probably my favorite thing about Alchemy. Yeah, so that's Alchemy in a nutshell. Um, all of the code you see there is just for this alchemy.yml file. This literally what controls everything. Yeah, so this is Alchemy version 2. What else did I change? I think there was Leaf FS, the file system module. It had a lot of inconsistency. Actually, why is this wait press? Let me refresh that. Okay. Yeah, so it had a lot of inconsistency with the file system module. It was all over the place. Um, Let me give you an example. File system. There you go. Actually, you can just search for things. I am still trying to find a way to let the the sidebar auto scroll. But then I didn't want to create my own sidebar. Yeah. Anyway, so file system stuff. Now you have two functions available to you. You have path, yeah, which is this guy. So it's just a path function which you can run. I don't think I'm on the latest version here, so I don't think I can demonstrate that. Oh, there we go. Okay. Um, yeah. So basically, if you have any path you want to maybe sanitize or anything, you can just call the path function, pass in the path, and then you can get a directory name, you can get extensions, or you can normalize the path. So what normalization does is if you have a path that has maybe dot slash slash, like messed up URLs, it just sanitizes all of it for you. Like that's the whole idea here. It's a very simple function, but then it's quite useful if you have file system stuff you want to do. And then there's working with files, so you can create file, read file, update file, delete file, the usual stuff. But then I normalize the way you work with both files and folders. So some methods like delete, copy, move, all of those stuff work um, for both folders and directories. So if you just call storage delete, pass in what you need, it's smart enough to know whether something's a folder or it's a file, and then to act accordingly. So I think this is more readable. It's just a more readable way to do things. Basically, this whole update was about, should I say, developer experience and just readability of things. So this is cleaner. It's just much easier to write, much easier to read. It's easier on the eyes, basically. Um, Same with file uploads. So now you have a much cleaner config to work with. Allow types, allowed extensions, things like that. Just much easier. Okay. So there's not much with a file system module. It still doesn't support AWS S3 and stuff like that, but that will come soon. Okay. We've talked about form, FS, alchemy, auth. Yeah. Oh, we've not talked about form. So form had a big overhaul. So I think I should also show this because I'm pretty much working with it right now. So for those of you who have used Leaf MVC before, you probably have this code if you try to scaffold authentication right now. This is what the old flow looked like, but then there's so much stuff that has changed. So for instance, validation. Before you would have to get this, validate that separately. But right now we can just combine this. So request, validate, like that. And one big thing that has changed is that validation the validated files, sorry, validation expects things to be required by default. So then if you pass in this, in the previous version, you actually have to add required to it, but now it just sees everything as required. So if you want something to be optional, you have to pass in optional instead. So it's sort of flipped. The reason I flipped there around was I think it makes much more sense this way because if you pass in something into validate, there's like a 90% chance that is required. So typing required every time is just redundant. So yeah, I made it required by default. Um, yeah. So in this case, for this particular validation, we have an email field and a password. So we'll pass in email and we expect email to be a valid email. And then we expect echo form error. Can you elaborate that? I don't get what you mean by the echo form error. Oh wait, if you mean that this dot form, then yeah, we are not going to use this sort of form anymore. I think this was deprecated. I don't know why it wasn't changed. So this dot form, um, that's no longer going to work. You can just use form if you need form, but then an easier way to use form is to just call request validate. This is just much cleaner. Um, from using form validate because this gives you request validate gives you back all of the items you validated. So that's just much cleaner. So if I do something like this, then I know if the validation succeeds, I'm getting back the email and password. So I can just pass that directly in rather than doing form. That's really complicated. Yeah, so if that's what you're talking about, then it has been I mean, it will be fixed because I've not yet released this, but um, yeah, okay. Um, so with our new flow, besides the default optional, then we can check this if it failed, and then if it failed, what we want to do is we want to respond, and then we want to add a flash message basically, and then we want to redirect to auth login. So this will show only once if the validation fails. We can do this for now. So for now, I can just output the validation errors with like form exit. Sorry, request exit, and then so we can call request errors. So request errors will give us all the validation errors like this. So if I enter something which is not an email and enter something which is just 2 characters long, okay, I made that an email field, so I have to. Maybe okay. So it seems the browser will actually check that for us, but then we get here password must be 8 characters long. And then there are a couple of new things too. So for instance, we go to the register controller. Yikes. Register controller in Leaf MVC. Then you see something here like confirm password. And then you have matches value of password. So these are like new stuff you can do. Like you can match values from other fields in the request, which is pretty cool. And then so by default, validates will return only, it will take the whole request. So even if users passed in like malicious data or anything into different fields, it will return only the fields that we validated. So when you check the value of credentials, so let's say response, exit, request, sorry, just credentials, like this. Let me make this just confirm password, and I'll go to auth register. Okay. At okay. Testing. Okay. So in this case, I get only this data. So even if there's like any extra data that was passed in, validates will return only. Yeah. So that's I mentioned I was going to work on that. Yeah, password has been, yeah. So that's something I which I'm working on. Um, so I'm considering doing it the same way Laravel does with a bail. So if you add a bail, it's to just return the first failure. So in that way, I can make it a string. But then the reason it was done that way is, so let me just give you an example. So if I make it like maybe min2, min3, so actually you can sort of pile all of these up. But then this just to show you why it's an array instead of a string. So let me just pass in fake data. Um, so, okay, just two characters. Okay, okay, what's just happened? Hope I didn't stop the server. Okay, okay. Oh, right, it's returning a 400. Let me not return a 400. Right, will that make any difference? Okay, let's see. That's still supposed to return JSON though. I don't know if I broke something. Because I'm still testing. So I've changed a lot of the vendor stuff. Okay, what's going on here? Um, JSON, da, 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 and then die right after. Then is what? Then yeah, I'm actually in the process of fixing it. So that's probably might be why things are breaking. Because I'm actually editing the vendor files directly. So like the form which is inside the vendor. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm actually in the process of filling it. So the idea is for it to just get the first failure. Um, Credentials. What are we looking for? We're looking for app. Sorry, not app. Request errors. Okay. It's so funny to me how I always sort of forget leaves functions when I'm the same person who writes them. Anyway, so this is what I mean. So you can have one item that returns multiple validation failures, and that's why it returns an array. Um, but then if I'm to use something like the bill, I don't know if there's like a better way of doing this because I don't want to just copy. Yeah. But the idea is that if it gets only the first failure, then this can be a string because it will just return only one failure. Um, so that's the idea, and that's what I'm working on. Um, so that will be fixed soon. You can just hold on to that. Um, I have a new release planned, like a 2 point, is it 3.1 planned for maybe later today or tomorrow. So hopefully it'll be fixed soon. Okay. Um, Back to what I was showing earlier, which I don't remember anymore. Um, okay. Right. Okay, so this is what we had. And we are back to page number. Okay. Oh, JSON. Okay, this sucks. And there we go. So testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3, and wow, what's this? Cannot modify headers. What have I done? Right, it's okay. I know what's going on. I have to either exit or die over here. Um, Usually this is the job of exits, but then I changed exit to work a bit differently. This is only on my local, so the HTTP version online doesn't have this problem. I was playing around with the redirect to sort of find a better way to do it. Anyway, so validate returns only the items that are validated. So if a user passes in any weird data, um, validate will just ignore all of that stuff and just return the stuff that was validated. But then that poses a new problem. Actually, it's not a problem because you can just get your data and then do it separately. But I'm very lazy and I want like the simplest way of doing things. So with these credentials that I return from validate, I want to use those same credentials in register. But then my database doesn't have a confirm password field, and it shouldn't. It actually shouldn't have a confirm password field. Um, so in this case, I can tell validate to not return a specific field if it's validated correctly. So I can do that with a star. And now if I check this credentials outputting, confirm password is gone. So now I can take this same credentials and then just register directly. And that works. So if I remove this line, yeah, this fails because I've actually already registered. I don't remember which database I'm even using anymore. I think it's this one. Yeah, I've already registered here. So it's giving me some errors, but then I've not connected the errors to the UI. So it just redirects me back here. So that's how it's working. Yeah, I was supposed to do that, but yeah. So that issue is just a local issue. I don't know why that's happening, but anyway. So this is how the request validates works now. There is no need to use form. Like the form is still available to you, but then the only situation where you would need to use form validate instead of request validate is if you have um, like some local data which is not coming from the request. So maybe like local, and then you have some data in here that you still want to validate, then you can use form validate. You pass in local here, and then you pass in the validation rules as the second parameter. Um, yeah, so you can do this with the local data. But then if you're getting items from the request, then you just use request validate. That's just much easier, much cleaner. And then you get the errors with request errors, like that. Cool. So that's about validation. There are some new validation rules. Um, you've seen min, there's like between, um, maybe like between 1 and 2, stuff like that. I think I've listed all the rules here. I believe I have. What's validation? So security validation. I think I did. Okay, but I actually added some new validation rules after. An example is the matches value of password. Um, that's not here yet. So I'm going to update the documentation after this. Yeah, but that's pretty much validation. Besides these stuff and the new rules, it works exactly the same way as the previous version. Um, yeah, everything is the same. You can still do your nested validation. Wait, one more thing is different actually. Let me. It would be easier if I had JSON data to work with. But anyway, let me try to show you this. Um, so you can validate if something is an array using the array validator. But then you can also check if, for instance, if I have an array like maybe array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exactly, I can check to make sure that every item inside this array is a number using like array number, something like that. The syntax is like TypeScript because it was actually inspired by TypeScript. I use TypeScript a lot. Um, I've surprisingly written more TypeScript than PHP within the last couple of years. So um, this is what it looks like. So basically, you can check to make sure. So if I have this, I can check to make sure an item is a string, or actually within these braces, I can use any valid rule. So I can do something like matches value of in here of maybe password. So this will make sure that every single item inside this array matches this value. So you can actually mix and match the rules together. We'll Well, this is actually your first. I actually thought I thought your first PHP framework was like Laravel because you've mentioned a lot of Laravel stuff. So I thought Laravel was your first PHP framework or your go-to or something like that. Um, yeah. So we do use a lot of Laravel inspired things in Leaf because I mean, yeah, Laravel is great, but then Laravel has, in my opinion, too much magic. Like there are just so many things that are so simple that they are complex. It's a very funny relationship um, with me and Laravel. I like stupid simple things, but then at the same time, I like things that I can just see and understand. For instance, I can see this move line by line and actually understand what it's doing. But then in Laravel, I might have to set something in a provider somewhere, and you know, yeah, Laravel is cool. Laravel really is cool. Just too much magic, in my opinion. Um, anyway, so yeah, that's request validation. Um, Same thing as the old version. I try to keep everything close so that you don't have to learn anything new. Um, so that if you just follow the documentation, you'll be fine. Especially if you've used the older versions before. So that's just how it is. It's just um, simple stuff. Keeping it close to the old version. By the way, you can do stuff like this. I forgot to show this. So if you want to change a validation rule, yeah, I've not tested this. I forgot to test this. This is why you have to test your code. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sometimes my laziness gets the better of me, so I don't actually um, test it. Okay, I have an email field here. Let's hope it works. If it doesn't work, then we are probably in trouble together. Anyway, so let's test this. So I expect my field to be an email. The browser will force me to pass an email in anyway. So let's try. Let's change this to maybe like a min of 1,000. So expect at least 1,000 characters. We can't type so many in. So this will fail. We expect this to fail. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Do people actually even still use confirm password fields? It's been a while since I saw confirm password field. Huh. Anyway, so let's see what we are doing here. So we expect, let's change this rule to, um, is it min? I actually don't remember how to do this. And then maybe field, I don't know, something. So it's supposed to update the message that's shown in the validator. Okay, I think we are good. So let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, right. I have to probably just die this. Funny, this was working before. Um, exit and die were working before. Anyway, yeah, I'll just use JSON for now. So we can request exit, sorry, request errors, then exit. Okay. Um, let's just do that again. Testing, testing. Okay, so yeah, it works. Ooh, good thing. Um, queue workers in the documentation. I don't think I added queues in the documentation, did I? Oh, I added queues? Right, yeah. I was rewriting this. Actually, this should not be here. Yeah, the set just picks up everything. Um, so the queues, I think the queues are working, but then I was running a few local tests first just to confirm because a lot has changed since I pushed out um, GitHub queues. Yeah, a lot has changed since I first pushed out queues. So then I had to make sure that everything still works. I think the last time, oh wait, it's just been a year. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, yeah, so I had to just make sure that it still works as detailed in the old documentation. So if you visit the old documentation, you can find the documentation for that. Um, yeah, I just want to make sure it works fine because it uses the database stuff, and then um, the classes wouldn't have changed, but then obviously the interactions with the database, I just need to make sure they're working fine, and then I would rewrite the documentation for that. Um, yeah, but I've not done that because I haven't finished testing that out. I wanted to get out the most important stuff before the queues. Yeah, so that's about the queue. That's about the queue stuff. Um, okay. Now I have totally forgotten what I was doing. I think I was testing something here. Yeah, anyway, so this was showing that you can change the validation messages. So I used the min rule over here and the min, wait, sorry, over here, and it failed. So it gives me this. So that's just changing the messages if you need to. So if you have anything special you want to put in there, you can. For instance, the matches of, um, you can customize this in 1, 2, 3, and then I can just put in any random string here, and then to give you, um, yeah. So this way it gets email must be 1,000. I'll change that, but then confirm password must match the value of password. So if this validation message isn't good enough for you, or maybe you want to change a language or something, you can do that using the request validator message, and then you pass in the rule, update this, and then that's all. Yeah, so that's it for validation. It's still the same old validation. So there's nothing really new to learn. Everything else you need to be in the documentation. They probably shouldn't have been. Actually, I made them major versions because um, they would break. They would break existing applications. But then there's not much difference. It's pretty much the same thing. So um, that's the idea. Oh, it's already been an hour. Wow. Um, for those of you who joined before I talked about the new documentation, please check it out. Um, it's a lot of stuff have changed. Um, yeah. Oh, nice. There was actually a leaf release, version 3.8, 28th October. Um, so this adds a bunch of features that were heavily requested. Um, so let's go to our underscore auth. All right. One major thing was multiple middleware. So people wanted to use a lot of middleware on the same route, and now you can. You just have an array, and then you can pass in any middleware you need, as many as you want. Keep in mind though that every middleware you add will run before your actual code, so it will affect performance. Um, it will affect the performance of that particular route. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. So if something doesn't need middleware, just don't use middleware. Like if you can get it done inside your actual function, get it done in the um, I don't think I've ever written an app where I used multiple methods. Okay, I have in Express. Express here. Um, yeah, but then everything runs in order. So just try to keep them. Try to keep your middleware usage, to the bare minimum, because then all your middleware will run before, and then you have your actual function that would run next. So um, that's just a little caution. But now you can do that. You can add multiple middleware if you want to. And then Leaf MVC still uses class middleware. So the reason, okay, the reason I did that was Leaf MVC uses classes for everything. That's just the way Leaf MVC works. Um, so then I didn't want to force people. Yeah, Q is not ready for. Basically, yeah, I'm retesting queues, so don't use it yet. I'll update the documentation when it's ready for use. So basically, that's what I mentioned. Um, right. Okay. So middleware in Leaf MVC, there'll probably be like a middleware slash I don't know, up middle, some kind of middleware, any middleware you want to use, or PHP. So it's going to be like a class middleware. So Leaf has to support that stuff. Usage is basically the same. If you have your class, oh my goodness. So if you have your PHP, you have your namespace. The next version of the Leaf, PHP Leaf console will add that stuff for you. Right now it doesn't exist, but the next version will. It will do all of this stuff for you. So namespace, app middleware, you have your class, app middleware, and then I think it's a run function or something like this. This way you add your middleware. And then when you want to use it, you go to wherever you want to use it, and then you call your middleware like this, middleware class, basically. Because all of Leaf MVC uses classes. It's just a thing. I'm not a big fan of that. I think everybody by now knows I'm not a fan of classes, but classes have their use. And in trying to organize your code, according to you can set it to the string name. That's what I'm doing here. The middleware can be a string name, like this. So that's what I did here. Auth middleware basically just registers this as the middleware name. So you can still have your app middleware like this. Is it? I think add middleware. I actually don't remember. Oh, yikes. Is it middleware like this? Huh. I think it's register middleware. Yeah. So what does middleware do? Huh. Anyway, I'll check on that later. Basically, so you can register the middleware with the middleware name and then whatever function it is. With Leaf MVC, I don't know, maybe you can just have a function that returns, probably just returns the class name or something. I don't know. Um, Maybe app middleware, run. Maybe this. Yeah, I think in Leaf MVC, you can probably do something like this. Or you can just pass in the middleware directly in Leaf MVC. But then with regular Leaf, functions just work. Functions are a much better choice, which is why all of Leaf was rewritten to use middleware functions. Speaking of that rewrite, uh, so this particular version 3.8, kind of slowed down Leaf a little bit, just a little bit. So usually when I'm working on Leaf, I have yeah, you can write app, not app middleware. The app middleware was just an example, by the way. So this can be maybe, I don't know, cause already has a middleware. Let's just say something like maybe sound middleware. You can name them anything you want. It's just an example. Maybe this was a bad example. So let's name this sound middleware. I don't know what it does. It has its own implementation. And then you can do that here. So with Leaf MVC, as I was explaining before, Leaf MVC uses classes for everything. If you don't want to use classes, it's perfectly fine to just come in here and then add a function. But then just to keep everything organized so that if like anyone takes your code, they know you have all your middleware inside the middleware folder. But then to do that, you kind of need classes. I mean, you can still throw in a bunch of functions here, do something. You can have functions in here, and that's fine. But then for like general organization, it makes more sense to use classes in Leaf MVC. Sorry, just for organizational purposes. It's not like it has to be classes, but then if you want your code organization to look better, how do you register middlewares in route files? No, you can. This is an example. So you would normally do that probably in here in your index.php, your routes index.php. But then no matter where you put them, they would run. I put them here, for instance, with these ones. I put them here because they are related to everything that's going on in this file. So if anyone should open auth.php, they would find the middleware registered here and then the route together. Once again, it's just organization. It's just an organizational preference. Um, it doesn't actually have any impact on your application or its performance or anything. It's just all about organizational preference. Um, yeah. So it's just preferences. You like classes, yeah. Yeah. So the classes will work the same. So if you have your app middleware, sound middleware, in this case, I can just come here and then do the sound middleware thingy like that. You mentioned what's this? Unknown use app middleware, sound middleware. Um, you mentioned registering. Yeah, if you want to register it globally, that was the example I gave earlier, which is register middleware like that. You give it a name. Huh, actually, this would make a lot of sense. Wait, I think you can actually just do this. No, you can't do that. Actually, no, you can't do that. That would be nice though. Maybe I would actually work on that for another version. Um, yeah, and then you can just call maybe sound middleware run. Maybe you can do this, and this will work. This will actually work. So in that way, you'll be able to say middleware and then just use the name which you gave it over here. That's not so clean though. It's not really clean, but it works. You have to call this function again. Yeah, that's actually not clean. It would be nicer if you could just sort of pass in some middleware. Wait, can you do that? No, it has to be. Wait, a callable. It actually might work if you do this. Yeah, this might work. Let me try this. Run. Yeah, let's actually hope this works. So we'll be able to put something in our sound middleware. Um, okay. Sound middleware. Okay, and then we put in I don't know something. Echo. I actually really don't know if this will work. Um, something that's happening here. Okay, which route did I register this on? I registered it on auth. So let's try auth login. Auth login. Okay, yeah, something is happening here. So it looks like it actually works. It's running twice though, but then it works. So yes, you can do this. You can just pass it as an array. So this is cleaner. This is cleaner than actually passing in the function and then doing that. So yeah, will it be correct if I register routes in routes? Yeah, that's good. So it will work regardless of it. As I explained, there's just an organizational thing. Like I prefer to keep all of those stuff together. So you can keep it here and it will work. But then this is so general. I kept it in here because if someone takes this code, they have and they click on maybe authentication, everything related to authentication, including the middleware will be here. It's just an organizational thing. It doesn't have any effect on your app. Yeah. So that's how it will work. Log in with PHP. Wait, I don't get you. I should write log in with. Wait, I actually don't get you. What do you mean? Write something with login? Um, what's this? Yikes. After updates, refresh page. I see login is converted to HTML. Wait, so what? Is it in the? Am I missing something? With Blade, after updates, refresh page. I see login is converted to HTML special character symbols. We actually really don't get you. Oh, with I don't know what you mean, but yes. So Leaf does this thing where it automatically sanitizes any data you pass into it. Um, if you use username rather than email for authorization, that wouldn't work because over here I'm actually explicitly requiring email. So if I pass in, where's the blade? Where's the login? Yeah. So I have my name, email. If I pass in maybe username, it will just tell me email doesn't exist, something like that, because I named the field username. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading an older version because I actually remember the older versions used username. So this will just tell me email is required. That's because of what I'm doing here. Yeah. Okay. Um. Anyway. Let's see. Finishing this up, we would need another redirect here. Um. As I mentioned, I wish I could sort of like do everything at once. But then, unfortunately, we check one thing, if there's an error return, just so that we don't actually move to the next line. Because if we redirect from here, then all of the stuff under this won't run. So that's why we're doing that. And then if the login is successful, then we just response redirect to dashboard, basically. So this is our new login. Um, yeah, this is what our new login looks like. Can I log in? Yeah, let me try logging in. So I have to remove the middleware. Remove that middleware. Um, but yeah, Rome, I hope this answers your question about the middleware. Yes, you can use classes in Leaf MVC. Just add a middleware folder, add your middleware, and then that would work. So let me remove this. This should be auth.guest, I think. Um, okay, so now I should be able to log in, hopefully. Wait, let me confirm my login controller. We are requiring an email. This won't work. This won't work because I changed this to username. So I have to change it back to email. Okay, now that would work. Um, okay, so email password min8 and all of that stuff. So an email in here, m at m, and then testing 1, 2, 3, and voila, that works. We get redirected to dashboard. Now, if you try to go back to auth register, it redirects to dashboard. Same for auth login, redirects to dashboard. Beautiful. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm still working on the UI of this. There's nothing interesting going on here. It's just home. There's a home page. You can edit this in app route auth. You can edit your controllers here. Yeah, pretty much. So I think this is our dashboard controller, and then our base controller for authentication, account controller. Um, yeah, wait, no, we are still using guard here. So this is probably when we go to the user page, right? So we have to rewrite guards to use the new middleware, which I've already done. So we can just remove this. And then auth user password. What's this? I actually have no idea what this is doing. What does that do? Um, account controller. Is this account controller? Okay. Show update. Show update. There we go. Remove guard and then echo view with all of this data. So we get a user data here. Um, so before we were doing the previous version, and you can see we are why is user pointing to user ID? That's weird. Anyway, so we just do like a user get to get. Oh my goodness, to get the actual information we want, and then we pass that in here. So we have user, there is no username, there's just an email, a name, and a user ID. Okay. Refresh array keys. What's going on here? Okay, let's view this page. That's in updates dot update of blade.php in views. Updates of blade.php. Why is it loading updates? Shouldn't it show the user page, the accounts page? Yeah, sorry, it's accounts of blade. My bad. Um I have no idea what's going on here. I think this was the part where I was just showing the user data of guard logout. No more guard logout. If you want to log out, just go to wherever your logout route is. I think mine is auth logout like this. Okay, there we go. Yeah, this page is still using Bootstrap. I have this thing I did, so I can just sort of extend the layout, which is a dashboard layout I created. It's using Tailwind CSS. Like the whole new thing is using Tailwind CSS. Um, right, so I can just get rid of all of this, copy and paste this part, which is the only part needed. And we should be good. Okay, there we go. Account, there's the accounts page, edit your account, which is also probably still broken. Okay, this should be dashboard user update, because that's why I moved all of the new stuff to. Okay, the form is still here, and it still looks good. And then you can see the data in here already. Right. Yeah, I switched user to auth user get. That's one of the new things with with the the new auth version 3. Um, auth user returns the whole um, user object. So if I do this, it will just return the whole user object and not give me the user information. There is user.data that returns what the old authentication used to return, which is the user data plus tokens and all of those auth stuff. So, for instance, if you are building an API, let me go back to login. Yeah, so if you are building an API, right here, so this is actually more of a success now because it no longer returns that. There were some reasons for that. Right. So if you're building an API, what you do at this point is you just response JSON and then you auth data like this. Yeah. So this is all you have to do if you're building an API. So this would return the user information plus access token, refresh token, all of that stuff. But this is a full stack application, which is sort of why we are redirecting to dashboard. I think I have detailed all of this in the documentation. I hope I did. I think I did. Where are we? User login. Right, yeah, I did. I put it in right here. So you have the user, you have the access token, refresh token. Yeah, cool. Um, okay. Why can't you put uniques? Right. So before, let's say uniques. So to show uniques, you have to go to register controller. Okay. Um, so the idea with uniques is you're supposed to have some fields which are unique to a particular user. In this case, the only thing that's unique is the email, right? Um, if I were to register a new user, I would want this field to be unique. If I'm updating a user, I still want that field to be unique, right? So doing that in here, so I would have to do auth register and then unique, maybe email. If I have a username, I pass that into, right? If I have to update the user, I would have to do auth update again, pass in the user information, and then I have to pass in a second field for the uniques. So then that is just basically repeating the same thing, like I'm just repeating it over here. So if I repeat it for register, and then anywhere else I have to call updates, I have to repeat that, So the idea was to just configure your unique values once, and then it's picked up by updates, it's picked up by register. So anywhere you have to update something, um, so let's see, uniques. Unique, unique. Yeah, there we go. So now you have your unique values, like your username, your email, any other thing which is supposed to be unique. So you just pass everything here, and then um, this is applied when you call auth register, when you call auth update. So if you're using auth updates in multiple places, you don't have to pass in uniques all the time. I found that very redundant. Yeah, so that's one more change. That's one more change. Good questions, Roman. Um, he actually forgot to talk about that. But yeah, that was one of the changes. So this is no longer a thing. You don't need to pass in uniques over here. You can just pass them once and then never have to deal with them again. Same thing for hidden values. Um, so hidden values. So if you want to, you can just do like your ID, your password. So by default, it passes in the default things to hide are field or ID, field or password. And we're using field.id because instead of ID, because Leaf has no idea what your primary key is. So it just field.id makes sure it passes out what is over here. So that's the idea. So if you have any hidden things, for security reasons, things you don't want your users to see, in my case, maybe remember token. I don't know. Actually, that should probably be seen anyway. But I can just put this over here, and then whenever I fetch my user from the database, it doesn't show again. Yeah. So basically, that's the idea. Roman, your question? Okay. So auth. Yeah, I think this is okay. Okay. That's pretty much auth. Login. I think I only have the account controller to work on, and then I'll be able to push this out. Okay. Cool. So I was showing added support for resource. Right. This particular one right here, add support for resource routes with route options. Um, so there was, I think I worked on this the last stream, but I had to change a few things. Eventually ended up slowing Leaf down by a couple of requests per second. I know ESPHP devs don't care about requests per second and all of those stuff, but then I actually really do care about those stuff. Yeah, you guys just have to deal with it. So you hear me talking about performance a lot. The reason I care so much about performance, it's not really about requests per second. It's more about memory usage. Is mostly because there are quite a lot of folks that usually have um, folks usually have what do you even call this? Like maybe one VPS, and then they host like multiple applications on them. In situations like that, you would usually not want to have one application eating up all your RAM, as you see in other frameworks. Let's see how I use app push with route and push args and use data for this route from push. let's see. Um, let's see. Up push. I guess you're talking about. Is that redirecting? I think that's redirecting, is it? Wait, I actually know what you're talking about, but I don't remember where it is. It's response push rather. Yeah, I actually really don't remember where this is. They're asking how to use. Wait, is it up push? How to use routes in push arguments and use data for this route from push. Wait, actually, okay, like up push route data. I think I am a bit confused here. Um, Basically, up push is redirecting, right? So if I have a route with a name, like a named route, actually, I should probably do something about this, make it response push or something. I think the reason I didn't do that was once again performance. Um, was once again for performance. Um, for instance, I think maybe it would be easier to just show this here. So response redirect like this. Yikes. Anyway, so response redirect like this. If I were to get the up route, which I am doing now because I was sort of forced to do that. So I think you can just use response redirect anywhere and it will still work. Route. So up push route data. Well, I'm actually confused as to why you are using route again. Um, I am actually really confused. Let's see. What was route? I think route just gets the current route by name. Um, right? If I am right, I actually really don't remember this, but you know what? Let me just JSON response JSON this. Um, but yeah, I think it just gets the current route if it has a name. You know what? Let me just read the route. Function get args. Okay, and then array shift up route. Yeah, so we are basically just getting the current application, which is why I'm actually surprised you are calling route again. How to correctly use route by identifier and at the same time send data along with the redirect. Oh, oh, right. Um, okay. So there is actually no real way to do this. So the hack I am personally using is to just use session flash. Um, so the example you saw over here, this was like my solution to that. And redirect actually can take in the route name. Um, you just have to pass in an array of a string, a single string with a route name. So for instance, if my login route is named like auth login or something like this, then this is what it will look like. So my trick is to just use flash. So I do response with flash redirect. Uh, and then I can pass data along to whatever route I'm redirecting with. Yeah. So that's the trick I use. And then the route name is here. So I don't know if this is what you mean to do, like redirect to a different route, but then use the route name instead of the URL. But if that's it, then yeah, this is the trick I use. So with this, on the login route, I can just go to any place at all and then just do flash. Um, I think flash get or something like that. Actually, what does flash return? Um, okay. Yeah, this might be an old version. I don't know. Yeah, I think it returns the flash instance, right? Actually, I have to fix that. Anyway, so I can just do flash get, in this case, error, because I'm passing in error. Like that's the flash message I'm passing in. So once I do this, the message automatically disappears. So if I refresh, I no longer get this. Um, yeah, yeah. All right. So that's correct. That's right. Yeah. So this is what I use. This is the trick I use. So this way I can still pass in my data and then use route names or anything at all. Um, yeah. So it works the same way. Name test. You can actually do that. You can do that. Let me try this. Let's see. Routes. There's a lot of folders. Uh, okay. So app get. So maybe let's just say hello slash backslash d plus to allow functions. Sorry, to allow numbers, right? And then I have wait, the routes doesn't actually take in any data. I think that's the mistake you're making. I actually don't know this because I don't really remember how route works, but then route doesn't take in any data. Yeah, I think route just gets the current route information, which is why you can't do what you are doing. Yeah, so the question you're having, what you were trying would not work in the first place because that's not what route um was made for. Oh, yeah, maybe we can talk more after this. You can just hit me up on Discord after this, and we can just work through this. Um, yeah. So it's not an issue. You can just hit me up. Um, yeah. But for now, if anyone is trying to do anything like that, like redirect to a different route with data, you can just try this. And this will work fine. At least it has worked fine for me so far. So we can try. Any more questions you have, you can just hit me up with them. And it's not a waste of time. Don't worry. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think we are pretty much done with login, redirect, login, sign up, user. I'll fix this UI later, and it's so bright. My goodness, I probably have to add dark mode. Yeah, sorry guys, there's no dark mode on that for now. Um, yeah, there's actually no dark mode. So you have to deal with a bright light. Yeah. Let's see, other shortcut. Right, I was talking about this. So folks wanted, let me just close all of this up. Um, so they wanted a way to use resource routes. So basically, resource routes are for controllers. So if you don't know what a resource route is, um, so an example is all of this. How we have a login controller at show, at store, all of those stuff. So a resource route is it's basically a route that does all of this stuff for you. So you can have a resource controller that has create, show, updates, delete, whatever methods those are. And then it just creates all the routes for you. So basically, if you had extra methods here, I think a better example would be like with my account. If I had routes to delete, basically I can replace all of that with one route, which is app resource. Is it resource? My goodness, I wonder why I keep on forgetting methods for leave. I believe it's resource, but yeah, router resource. Yeah, so one disadvantage of having so many, so I'm actually using a workspace and I have a bunch of different applications in here. So my PHP IntelliSense is confused as to which method I want to call because some of the the same classes are in a lot of different projects. So sometimes when I click on it, it gives me a completely different project and it doesn't really know what to do. Um, yeah, basically. So a resource route registers all of this. So it has index, store, create, show on the same controller, right? So there was no way to use does the flush with the response redirect dashboard? No. So the flush data is just a way to pass data to it's just a way to pass data to whatever route you are going to. Up push route test. Okay, so Rome, you can't pass data to route. At least from what I saw, from the implementation I just read, you can't pass data to route. So if you are trying to get the current routes, that's when you use route. But then if you want to get like a particular route data, I think that's when you call up route. If I'm right. Yeah, my intelligence is confused. Yeah, but you call up route and then you can pass in the name of wherever you want to call. So this would probably be like your route name or something. Yeah, your route name. So yeah, with the example you were trying to use, you should have probably used up route, not routes, because route would probably just give you the current route information. Yeah. Um, route data. Yeah, and put this exit patterns on route. Yeah. I think this was fixed though. I really don't remember, but I think there was a PR for something like this some time ago. Um, yeah, if I remember right. I would probably check after this and then get back to you on that. I'll just hit you up on Discord with it. But I think there was something like this. Someone opened the P information. So I'll just check and get back to you because I'm not really